Welcome to episode 2 of the Today I Am Sober podcast with your host, Liz W. On this episode, I'm speaking with Anne-Louise Harbutt all about intuition. Listen in and discover some really simple ways that you can tune in to your intuition. I hope you enjoy the show, and if you do, I'd love it if you could give me a review. So I'm delighted to say that today on the podcast we have the lovely Anne-Louise Harbutt.
Hello!
Hello. Now, I've known Anne-Louise. How long have we known each other? Is it 18 months?
My word. About 18 months, 2 years, because we had that trip into London.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so...
a little journey together.
Anne-Louise and I spent about 3 hours going into London one Saturday. We were both going to the same event. The trains were up the spout.
That's it.
And I think I verbally vomited on you for about 40 minutes about my sobriety, didn't I, on that journey?
You did that, and also you did your opinion, because you said, I don't know what you do. I haven't found out. And I said, I haven't found out about you either. And then you kind of went, well, you don't do this and we don't do that. And then we literally, I think, interrogated each other, as you say, for about 3 hours.
Yeah, we absolutely did, because I always I think when I first kind of came across you, I was really pushing away the woo-woo, and I'd come online, I was seeing these people talking about the woo, and I'm like, no, I don't like that, that's a load of rubbish. What's all that about? I don't believe it.
Don't like that.
Don't like that. You and I met, and it completely changed my perspective. And I became a lot more open-minded about being intuitive. So the reason I've invited you on today is I wanted to talk to you about all things intuition. Because my experience is that all those years I spent drinking, I kind of lost sight of that voice inside of me that was in my heart that kind of was keeping me connected to me. And whilst I've been sober just over 6 years, I still don't have a really solid connection to that intuition. And when you said to me on that car journey that you were an intuitive coach, I'm like, well, what a load of rubbish that is, love.
I think you said those words, actually.
I think I might very well have done.
You did.
So I think for me that the question is, what is intuitive coaching, and how can we become more intuitively connected to ourselves?
Yep. Okay. So intuitive coaching is I am able to use my own intuition to connect with my clients. So there's 2 levels for me. I mean, this is different for different people, but for me, how I use my intuition is I get a feeling, I get just a knowing about somebody. So that can happen either in a reading. Yeah. So I am able to do intuitive readings where I channel in messages from the universe. So we're going very woo now. So for anybody listening, stick with us. Don't turn us off yet. Just stick with it, please. Because as Liz said, she wasn't very woo, but if you can bear with us for a little bit and stick around. So you probably can't get much woo than channeling in messages from the universe. And I just intuitively know things that the universe is saying for that person, and I share them. But I can also intuitively know what is blocking somebody. So they might come to me and say, I think I've got this block because my business isn't successful, or my relationship isn't successful, or I'm not earning the money that I want and I don't know why. Or they think they know the reason why, but I know if that's the reason or not, because often the reason that we think on the surface isn't the reason that's really deep down and underneath. So intuitive coaching is when I can intuitively say, so I'll give you an example. So I have a client at the moment, and she came to me because she was having problems with her relationship with her partner, and she was deciding that she pretty much knew it was over, but had got children and was struggling a bit with that. And she said to me, look, this is where we need to do the work. And even on the first session, I said, I know you're saying that's where we need to do the work, and we will talk about that, but there's something that happened in your childhood that you need to look at, which is the reason that what's happening today is happening.
Yeah.
So we don't just work on the surface thing, which is the relationship in her case. We work on what happened to her. We keep going back, and she sort of used her intuition to sort of feel it, and it took a little while, but once she hit on it, she broke down emotionally, and she knew exactly that was the thing. So the intuitive coaching is, I know you're coming to me with that, but intuitively I know there's something in your childhood that you need to clear.
That just reminds me of going into rehab, because when I was in rehab, what was really funny was I got really angry one day that I think it was that my son hadn't called me. Bearing in mind I'm away for 28 days. I'm newly sober. I've got all these emotions going on. I've got hormones to deal with that I've never recognised before because I've been sloshed constantly. And I got really angry one Saturday night because of something really trivial. And actually, I was going to say it was because of my son, but that wasn't the thing that triggered me. It was something really stupid, like not watching something on a Saturday night on the television. And I got really, really angry. And I'm going to call him Dave, because everyone knows a Dave. Dave pulled me to one side and said, Liz, what's going on? And I'm like, well, this, and I'm raring, and I'm ranting about this thing, and blah, 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 blah. And he goes, that's not really what you're angry about. And I'm going, yes, it is. That's outrageous. And he goes, no, you're angry because your son hasn't called you. And I'm like, you bastard. And
that's usually the response when you hit on the point, yes.
But that's what I've just heard you say in terms of the conversations that you have with clients, that, that often there's the thing at the top level that we're focusing on, that we're putting lots of energy into, that we're worrying about, whereas actually if we dig a little deeper, there's something underneath it.
Yes. But I think you made a good point when you said you lost sight of your intuition, because although in your case it was through the drinking, and it can be that way, people lose sight of being connected to their intuition from trauma, from challenging experiences, from all sorts of things. So I think connecting back with your intuition is such a powerful thing to do, and it can be easily lost. That connection can be easily lost for many, many reasons.
So how would you suggest then that we just start? Because I'm all about just giving it a go, seeing what happens, pray, open and pray, and having a bit of faith that it's all going to be okay. So, if we want to connect with, and I know from rehab, I've got a very scared little girl inside of me. She's 5 years old. She's really lovely, actually. And sometimes I just have to mother her and make sure she's okay. But how would you suggest that we start that journey of trying to connect with ourselves? And I'm using my hands, listeners. I know you can't see me move my hands, but I'm like I'm moving my hands inwards towards my heart. It looks a bit bonkers, but never mind.
I think the first thing is to know that you have that intuition in the first place.
Okay.
To not think, oh, it's so disconnected, or do I have it or don't I have it, or can I use it? It's like everybody has that intuition. So you have that sense that there may be a time in your life when you did something and afterwards you think, do you know what, something inside me said I shouldn't do that, and it was right. It's that sort of or somebody, you had that feeling that I should have done something, and then you found out it was the best event ever, or it was all your clients were there or something, you didn't go, and you kind of kick yourself afterwards because you didn't. And it's that feeling inside that says this is right or this isn't right for you, and everybody has it.
I agree.
Yeah. So you might not be very strong, or you might not have used it for a very long time, but the first thing is to know that you have it. There's no work you need to do to have intuition, because it's already there.
Excellent. So I'm going to be your case in point, and let's see if we can get you a little bit closer to my intuition.
Okay. So you have intuition. So that's a given.
So, acceptance. I'm going to accept that I've got some intuition. Excellent. What next?
So next is I want you to be really playful and fun. This is not serious. We're not going to get very deep and serious with our intuition here.
Good for that.
We want to be playful and fun. So we want to be, so I say to clients sometimes, if they feel like they've lost that sense of intuition, is you first thing in the morning, you put the kettle on and you're going to have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
What intuitively do you feel that you want? Do you want a cup of tea or a cup of coffee? Or are you having lunch? Do you want a salad or a sandwich? It sounds very simple, and it's not the deeper meaningful of intuition necessarily, but to start you trying to feel into, like, you were pointing towards your heart, and so inside, so you kind of you want to get used to feeling inside to what your intuition is telling you. So when it becomes, do I want a cup of tea or coffee, there's no pressure, there's no sense of, oh my God, but what if I make the wrong choice and I have a cup of tea and I should have had a cup of coffee? There's no, that we want to take all the pressure away, because what a lot of people do is don't think about their intuition, and then this huge decision comes up. Should I marry this man or not? And you're calling on your intuition for this huge life-changing decision, and then you're not connected with it. You haven't used it for ages, and your intuition's a bit like, hang on a minute, you haven't used me for the last 35, 40 years, and now you want to know whether you should marry somebody. Oh. So we want to get really simple with choices. So should I do this or not? So, I mean, they're really, really simple, like the tea and the coffee, because you could argue, is that, well, what do I fancy, taste-wise? But I'm just trying to teach you to go, okay, do I want this or this? Do I want a laptop or a desktop? Different choices. So you're feeling into what is right for you in that moment. But I want you to do it at a time when, if you felt unsure or you made the wrong decision, you had a cup of coffee instead of a cup of tea, it's not a big deal, rather than you end up marrying someone who actually wasn't right for you, because that is quite a big deal. I mean, I know you can get divorced, but it is a big life-changing decision.
Okay, so I really need to clarify that. So really it's about those little baby steps and those kind of micro decisions that we all make throughout the day.
Because actually you'll use your intuition. You probably are using, if you're anyone sitting here listening to this and saying, well, I haven't used my intuition for ages, you probably are, because you're making decisions throughout the day. You're making choices. I mean, when you go to the supermarket, don't you look, I mean, how much choice do you get on the shelves? And it's like, oh, do I want that pasta sauce or that one? Or, there's such a wealth of choice in this day and age. So you're actually probably using your intuition on a daily basis. You just don't think of it as being this more deeper level intuitive feeling.
Well, actually, I think I'm very habitual. It's funny you were saying, that I took myself to that moment where I wake up in the morning, and I'm really habitual. I don't drink coffee. Yeah. I always have a cup of tea. Yes. I always have 2 sugars in it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're going to have someone in the podcast to talk about sugar and your diet, because I've certainly done that since I stopped drinking. It's increased my sugar intake. But I'm very habitual with lots of the things I do. For example, I always have an egg mayonnaise sandwich for my lunch when I'm working. Which is I'm such a creature of habit, it's quite scary.
As am I, and as are most people. I'm the same. Always have a cup of tea. I don't drink coffee. But what it's doing is just trying to get you to think about, what is the choice? Like, maybe if you're always a tea drinker, I suppose it's like me. I would never have coffee, so it wouldn't be a thing. But try and think of something where you would always have a choice. So maybe when you don't wear the same clothes every day.
No, I don't.
So when you stand in front of your wardrobe, what do you feel like wearing? So that's a kind of play, because if you put something on, if you didn't choose exactly the thing you felt like, it wouldn't end your day if you wore something that you perhaps intuitively felt you should have worn something else. But I mean, this is more about being playful. This isn't necessarily, this is how you can use your intuition, but it's the first steps to go, I am using my intuition. I'm learning to feel inside of me to say, oh, what do I feel like? What am I drawn to? So it's getting that connection back again, but not trying to find it when you're only making those big life decisions. So you get used to trusting your intuition, because that's a big part of this. Is often when we've been through a traumatic experience, we lose trust in ourselves and our decision making, because we don't believe that we're good at making decisions because we've made poor choices in the past, therefore we beat ourselves up and say we're going to make poor choices in the future. So a big part of intuition is you learning to trust yourself again, and getting playful with that intuition and doing simple choices means you start to build, as you said, baby steps. You start to build that trust, because if you turn around to your intuition and say, here's the biggest life-changing decisions I've ever had to make, and you haven't trusted your intuition for 30, 40 years, how are you going to trust that? Even if your intuition does tell you, are you going to trust it? Are you going to listen to it? Or is a voice in your head going to say, well, that can't be right because you didn't make that decision very well, you didn't make that one very well. You start beating yourself up with all the things that you hadn't done right, rather than you've played with it, you've trusted it, you build up those choices, you're making them a little bit more. So very simple, playful ones to, okay, this is a bit bigger. This isn't life-changing, but this is a little bit bigger. I'm going to try that one and trust my choice. Yeah. And that, like anything, the more you do it, the more trusting you will become of it. And then when that big decision comes, you're like, okay, I'm used to feeling in. I'm used to knowing what that feeling is when it's a yes or a no. And I know I can trust it because I've trusted it several times in the last few months.
Okay, so we've accepted that we are intuitive. We've started to be very playful and fun, and you know I like to play and have fun. And I'm thinking of all the different examples.
There'll be so many choices now. You'll wake up, you'll have a whole day tomorrow going, oh, what shall I choose? Shall I turn the light on or shall I leave it on?
Well, steady on, love. Maybe not. But I think, I think that's great. But there are certain choices I know, that I can't make. So, for example, I can't make a choice between vodka and white wine today, and I choose not to. So one of the choices I've absolutely made is that I'm never going to intuitively know it's okay to have an alcoholic drink, because for me it's not. So provided I stay clear of that one, I think I can have lots of fun with this.
Yes.
So, for example, my boys always watch EastEnders. I can't bear it, and every time it comes on, I'm like, what shall I do? And I invariably, automatically, because I run on autopilot a lot of the time, is come into my office and think, I'll just do some work, or I'll play around on the internet and surf. And actually I could make another choice. The other choice could be, shall I go and have a shower? Shall I go and run a bath? Shall I call a girlfriend? Should I take the dog for a walk now, or should I wait an hour? And actually I've become so regimented in terms of how I live my life. I'm actually really looking forward to this in terms of being playful with decisions.
I think that's a really good saying about being regimented. That's a really good point to make, is that being regimented keeps you're keeping yourself safe. Like if I do these things, I make the right choice. Like you say, you can't ever you've made that choice not to drink. You've made that choice to stay sober. So having that sense of, I have to keep certain things in place for to make my life work, and having that autopilot, I think, gives that sense of, I know if I stick with these decisions and choices, I'm okay. And I think you're absolutely right to move from that regimented place to start being playful. I think if you can have that outlook of, I can have fun with this, knowing that I'm still safe, knowing that I've got some really strong boundaries in place. Because what we tend to do is you start putting these boundaries in place of, this is how my life has to be, because if I come off this path, this could mean I could drink again, or I could do this. Whereas actually, if you can be a bit playful with it, the path that is very regimented, you could stretch that a little bit, be a bit playful, make some different choices from that very regimented routine that wouldn't lead you to the point of, if I make that simple choice and change it up a little bit, doesn't then mean that it's going to lead me to making some decisions which are not going to work for me in my life. So there's a getting a bit flexible with that. Like, I'm not saying don't be regimented, because I think there are certain things in life you have to know that that's right for you.
Completely.
Absolutely. But also, you are looking forward to being a bit playful with these choices, knowing that you have that foundation and those boundaries in place. So you can go up to those boundaries. Exactly. You can be as playful as you want. Exactly. Excuse
me while I cough. Okay, so we've started having lots of fun. I, I'm making micro. I'm listening to the kind of choices I have available in my day, making micro decisions, which, whatever the outcome, doesn't really matter. It's not life changing whether or not I have a bath whilst EastEnders is on, or I decide to get the ironing board out. My God, if I got the ironing board out, my husband might think something.
Yeah, we might be seriously wrong.
Never mind. So we start off by making those little micro decisions. How do we then build that kind of strengthening relationship with ourselves? Is it simply a question of practice makes perfect?
It's pretty much, it is simply practice makes perfect, but also you've got to listen. So if you're going to ask the question, then listen to what your intuition says. It's there to guide you, and keep those channels open. So sometimes it might, if you're struggling with the listening inside, and like you've kind of been doing this stuff long enough to know that it's within you, but if you're starting out with this new, perhaps see your intuition as a separate entity to start. So you can start having this sense of, right, I'm going to ask my intuition. Say, well, hello, can I have a quick coffee with my intuition? And I'm going to have a little chat. Because if you've never done this before, to say it'll go within, and people go within what? A bit like you were with me when we first met. Like, what are you talking about, woman? Are you crazy? Yes, I am, obviously, because that's part of the package. But that's a whole different podcast. But there is a sense of maybe seeing it as a separate entity, and then it's like any relationship, you have to talk as well as listen. So if you're going to ask the question of your intuition, if you're going to try and build that relationship with it again, if you haven't been connected to it for a long time, then if you're thinking about in any relationship, you don't ask someone a question and then just completely ignore them, because that's rude. You don't do that. But we don't because we're lovely, so we're not doing that. So listen to it, and keep that channel of communication open. So you've got to, going from being playful, so we've done our playful, but we're taking it up a bit of a level. So all that time you were playful, you're listening to the answer, but with a smile on your face, because it's all really easy, and as you say, it doesn't matter if you don't have a bath or you take the dog for a walk or whatever you decide to do, but you've got to listen to that response, because you put it out there. It's like your intuition, you want to keep that connection going. So yes, it is to keep doing it. Practice makes perfect. Of course, you build that trust, and you take it from that decision, which is a little bit more than just a tea or a coffee or a bath or a walking the dog, taking up, maybe something in your business where it's not putting your business on the line, but it's do I want to work with this client or not? Am I feeling that this is a good client for me to have in my business? That's a bit bigger, it's a bit more of a commitment, because if it's not right, it means you could be spending a lot of time and effort in something that just drains your energy. And that one, you could have 5 or 6 clients that make you feel amazing, and you could have one client that exhausts you because you didn't listen to your intuition that was saying, I don't think that this one's quite right. So that's a bit of a next level one, if you like. But
keep multi-leveled then, darling.
Multi-leveled, darling, multi-leveled. But keep listening, and keep, like any relationship, you learn to trust, and you learn to, okay, so your intuition told you this, and that was right, that felt good. So you go again, it's like, okay, that felt good. Yeah, I'm learning to trust, and I'm also learning to feel that yes and no, feel that emotion, feel that sense of this was right for me to do. Because the other thing is that there might be your intuition saying this is, so when we talk about the bigger ones, so your intuition might, so say we're going back to the marrying the man, okay, and we're marrying somebody and we're saying, okay, so do I marry him or not? Now your intuition might go yes, absolutely, but your fear could be going absolutely no, giving you all ballistic and giving you all the reasons why you shouldn't. So another thing, which is a different level, is learning what your intuition is and when your fear is trying to, that, which is all, you can go there if you want.
No, I love that, because I read Elizabeth Gilbert's The Big Magic.
Yes.
I know you know this as well, because I think we've talked about this. There's that piece in her book where she talks about you can have fear in the car.
Yeah.
Liz, you're driving the car and you have a little conversation with Fear, who's in the back seat, and you say, Fear, you're along for the ride. I'm happy to have you, but you are not switching anything on the radio. No touching the knobs. No Kiss FM for you today.
No sat nav. No sat
nav. No, you're not telling us which direction we're going in. I know you will not be able to be keeping quiet because you're going to be really worried that the sat nav is wrong. That, you know, if we haven't got the traffic alert on, we're going to miss. You know, we're going to.
That's quite a good way, isn't it? Sat nav could be your intuition.
Ooh.
You could do it. I mean, I have that letter pinned up on my.
Do you?
I've got it literally above me. So because I have that, and I have that in front of me all the time, because fear completely controlled me for such a long time. And it's so easy to listen to our fear because the stories are so good. The fear gives us such good stories. But if you're driving and you're listening to the sat nav, which say is your intuition, your fear could say, "Oh, you don't want to go down that road. Oh, you don't want to go down that road. You know, there might be a dead end. There might be gangs down there. There might be, I don't know, might be things on the road that will burst the tires. You know, but your sat nav is telling you that's the way to go, and then that's ignoring the voice of, or deciding, maybe not ignoring it, but you decide to make the choice that your intuition is stronger than your fear.
I think that's, for me right now, in terms of where I am with my intuition, I think that's probably on the advanced course.
Yes. But just one thing to say, because although I think it is advanced course, is that a very simple way to choose is if you feel expansive. So if you're making a decision.
Oh, now see, expansive. Now that's one of those woo words, isn't it?
That is very woo word. So something that I had recently, when I invested in myself about 6 months ago, and it was a financial level that made me not want to breathe. And it was on a credit card. Like, I knew it had to go on a credit card, and my fear was saying, don't do it. It's another credit card you have to pay off. It's a huge amount of money. What if it doesn't work? What if this doesn't change? All the stories.
Yeah.
And my intuition was saying, go for it. So the thought of, if you could ignore all the stories, when I say feel expansive, it's like it was something that was going to make my life better. Like, I knew the investment would make my life better. So that, it made me feel expansive. It made me feel good. It made me feel excited for the future. It was something that was going to make me grow, make me be a better person, better in my business. So that's what I mean by expansive. The fear was just giving me all the stories of reasons why I shouldn't do it. And even when I did make the investment, I couldn't breathe. I was practically holding my breath. It was the right decision. It was the right choice. But even to the point when I actually made the decision, it hit the button that said, right, I'm paying for this and I'm doing it. Even then, I still was gripped by the fear.
Yeah.
Whereas if you feel retracted, so if you've got that feeling that, I don't know that this is going to make my life better in any way. I'm not feeling that this is going to add anything. Or like we said with a client, if you were choosing a client, there's something about them that I just can't put my finger on, because that's your intuition too. If you think of social media, all the people that are live and you're listening to, and you think, oh, I like what they're saying, but there's just something that I can't quite put my finger on that isn't aligning with me or isn't feeling right for me. That's if you feel a bit retracted, if you feel like you want to draw back, that's a good way to try and choose between the two.
So my brain has gone completely blank at this point, because it's like we've gone so down the.
We've gone far. We've gone way far.
We've kind of like. Let's kind of back in that car again, actually. When we first met, and I was like, I'm so not into this woo. My mind has become a bit closed, and it's because it's retracted, because it's like, oh my God, I don't know anything about this. This feels really quite scary to talk about, because I know nothing about this subject. So
yeah. But if you go back to we're listening. So we're going back to the playful. We're going back to the fact that
good. I can go back to playful. I can
go back to, you like playful, because we did literally go from stage 1 to 2 to about stage 12, I think.
Oh, good.
So let's bring it back to 1 and 2, and then say, so if you're listening again, so the way to, like you said, practice makes perfect. Listening to your intuition and keep going, keep asking those questions a little bit, that has a little bit more importance in your life.
Yeah.
Increase the impact in your life, if you like, every time. But it is, as you said, it's to keep doing it, keep practicing. And
it's about being more conscious, isn't it, of
yes,
what's happening with us in the moment, rather than just kind of being on autopilot and sailing through.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I think, when you said like things like regimented and being on autopilot, I think it's a coping mechanism, which is really important. And I think it's really important to know that people do that for many reasons. They're on coping mechanisms, they're on autopilot, and this is being more conscious, which can be scary in itself, to take yourself off autopilot and go, I'm going to be really conscious of how I'm feeling here, because that's part of your intuition, isn't it? It's one of the way you feel.
Oh yeah, and don't get me started numbing my emotions and my feelings, darling.
We won't do all of those.
It'll be Christmas, and then be like, my goodness.
But it is. I think whenever you come off autopilot and go, okay, I'm going to, like, be, you said, be in the moment and be conscious.
Yeah.
The minute you do that, you're not on autopilot anymore. So I think that sense of you can be on autopilot and then feel into your intuition and go back to autopilot. This isn't an either or. This isn't, oh my God, I've got to feel into my feelings all the time and I've got to be conscious and I've got to be in the moment, because quite frankly, the pressure to do all of that is too much. Whereas you can be on autopilot and go back to, if it becomes scary, go back to the playful. If you get to the point when you think, this is getting emotional, this is really, I can feel the fear, and am I retracted, am I expansive? It's like, oh, I don't even want to go there. You take it back to the real simple choices again, and you build the trust, and you go back to the steps 1 and 2 until you build that trust, until you feel ready to trust your intuition on a different level. Okay,
so the thing I've taken away from our conversation, and the action I'm going to take, is I loved what you said about your intuition is like a relationship.
Yeah.
And when I used to go clubbing, I used to have a disco name. I don't know if you had a disco name.
I didn't have a disco name, but I want to know what yours is.
So my disco name was Lucy. So I'm thinking that Lucy, because Lucy's really playful and Lucy's really fun. Yeah. I'm going to ask Lucy what she wants to do.
Okay.
Because I actually, going back to the tea and coffee in the morning, the decision I need to make is, am I going to have that new smoothie that I've learned how to make in my NutriBullet, because it makes me feel great for the next 5 hours, or am I just going to have a sugar-laden cup of tea? So
what does Lucy want you to do?
Lucy would say, go on, love, have the smoothie. And the little devil on my shoulders going, oh, just have some sugar, love, you'll be all right. So I think we're going to start listening to Lucy a bit more, because
I like that.
She's lots of fun. And I think we're going to start, I'm a really visual person, and I think best when I can visualize something. So Lucy, I can visualize. So Lucy and I can start to have lots of conversations. My husband's probably going to think I'm a little bit bonkers, as my son knows I'm bonkers, so that's absolutely fine. And I'm going to start to be a bit more conscious about some of the decisions that I make on a daily basis that at the moment are on autopilot, and that actually I can relax a bit and have a little bit of fun.
That's the importance, I think, is to not, I mean, I know we've laughed and joked about being a bit woo and a bit spiritual and all the intuition, but if you could come to life and take some of these things and exactly as you said, I'm going to relax a little bit, I'm going to have a bit of fun with Lucy because she's a good laugh and she's a bit playful, and just make really simple decisions, because the minute you've done that, you've connected back with your intuition again.
Yeah.
And you've started that relationship, and you're starting to trust that relationship again, and you might just be a bit playful for a few months. You might not even take it to a more serious decision, and then without thinking, you'll be in touch with a new client or something, and you'll say, "Oh, Lucy, we've got a little bit more serious here. What do you think? Should we put our serious head on and sit around the table in my office, and we'll have a serious conversation?" But you'll both be laughing because neither of you are particularly serious anyway. And then Lucy will go, "Oh, this is a big one. Oh, this is a good one. What should we do here?" But it's all relaxed and it's all playful. And I think part of this thing with intuition is that what's my intuition saying? What was deep and meaningful inside of me? It's like it becomes very serious and it becomes very heavy. And am I making the right decision? Yes, of course, there are some decisions in life which are quite serious.
Yep.
But if you could be relaxed and playful with those two, then the chances are that you're going to listen, you're going to hear your intuition much easier. Because although it's if you could have the same sense of fun and playfulness that you do with your smoothie and your cup of tea with a big decision, you'd still make the right choice. But you wouldn't be putting yourself, you put it easier to make the right choice because you wouldn't be putting yourself under this, "Oh my God, I can't think straight because fear's chatting in your ear and you're driving along and you can't even think what the sat nav is saying because fear won't shut up in the back." And, if you were relaxed and you wouldn't even listen to fear because you would be so relaxed and it's an easy journey that you would make the right choice without even thinking about it.
Fab. Well, I think in terms of where I am right now in my intuition, this is kind of like Intuition 101. You've given me some really great, simple, actionable advice and suggestions that I can take on board into my daily life that aren't going to be too onerous or too complicated, just really laid back, casual. I'm going to have fun with it. What I'd love to do is, you mentioned that we move forward to kind of like step number 12 on the scale of intuition. We've only started at the very beginning. So what I'd love to do is have you back and really explore that conversation about fear. Because fear for me it's a persistent little devil. And I think we could have an amazing conversation about that. But in terms of intuition, I can't cope with any more, love. If you give me any more stuff, I'll be like, I've got too much to do. I can't do all that.
The problem is, I'm like, I want to share that, and then I want to share that, and can I share that as well? It's like, no, stop, woman.
Oh. So, if our listeners want to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you, Anne-Louise?
They can find me on my website, which is anne-louiseharbutt.com. Or if they are on Facebook, I'm in the Intuitive Leaders Lounge, which is my Facebook group, and I'm in there pretty much every day. And also in there there's coaching in there, and also you will see on a Friday, you will be able to see me do the channeling using my intuition. You can just watch, you don't have to participate if you don't want to, and you can literally just come in, and it's all free. And you can come in and have a listen and just watch how I use my intuition. And all the women in there love using their intuition. And it's very supportive. They're very lovely ladies. And it's just a great place. If you're kind of thinking, oh, this intuition business sounds quite fun, and you want a bit of support around it, then the Intuitive Leaders Lounge in Facebook is a really good place to start.
Fantastic. Well, we'll make sure all of those details are in the show notes. And I've had an intuitive reading myself on a Friday morning from Anne-Louise, and it's scarily accurate. I'm like, oh my goodness, how the heck did this happen today?
How does she know?
These things. But you're very generous and giving with your time and energy in that group. So if you do like to go onto Facebook, I would strongly recommend that you join Anne-Louise's group. She's really generous with her time and her energy in there. And you'll get to meet a group of lovely, lovely supportive ladies. Even though I'm not terribly woo, they let me in and put up with me when I use naughty words occasionally. You don't have to be woo. You don't have to be woo. So, Anne-Louise, thank you so much for your time, my lovely, and I'll speak to you soon.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Today I Am Sober podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I love your feedback. So come and find me on social media. All of the links are in the show notes. Until next time, bye.